Namaskar. Welcome to the session on global concerns in tourism. The game of globalization has assumed an alarming proportion. As of now, it is a major issue bothering all the countries across the world. In this episode, let us try to understand different aspects of globalization universally. The main objective of learning has been presented fewer than 5 broad categories. They are as follows. First, the history and the game of globalization. Second, monsoon changes and monsoon tourism. Third, human-introduced hazards. Fourth, measures to achieve environmentally sound management in chemicals. And fifth, basic steps for saving rainforests for tourism. Coming to the introduction. Globalization began about 500 years ago. From environmental viewpoint, human activities are becoming less sustainable due to the impacts of globalization. The use of chemical fertilizers and pesticides is affecting soils, water distribution patterns, and the entire ecosystem. Mining is causing land degradation. Widespread burning of fossil fuels is slowly modifying the Earth's atmosphere. As a consequence, the planet is changing and losing its flexibility. We are squandering its richness, cultures, traditional production systems, and the wealth of experience accumulated throughout history. History and the game of globalization. In this age of globalization, we are affected by our own decisions, the way we want to live. Due to increasing pressures of globalization and the development in developing countries, there is an insatiable demand for natural resources. In our mad rush for development, we have forgotten the vital link between natural resources, technologies, and development. Development should not be at the cost of destruction. We have also unwisely degraded our precious natural resources. The changes inflicted on our Mother Nature are no longer confined to only one region or nation, but they are becoming global. High dispersion of pollutants can be expected in plains. Low dispersion in hills and mountains are due to the flow of air leading to a buildup. Such conditions retard the escape of pollutants. Thus, they tend to concentrate them in a smaller area. Under normal atmospheric conditions, the air temperature drops steadily with increasing elevations. When sunlight heats the earth, the heat is transferred to the air immediately above the ground. Then, in cooler condition, there is turbulence in the atmosphere because cool air tends to fall. If pollutants enter such atmosphere, they get dispersed well and are diluted. So, the concentration of air pollutants may reach dangerous levels. 3 major global environmental concerns are created due to our non-sustainable lifestyles. They are global warming, acid rain, and ozone depletion. Greenhouse effect and global warming. Temperature of the earth is maintained by re-radiated infrared radiation and slightly by water vapors in the atmosphere. These gases prevent heat from escaping. This is known as greenhouse effect and the gases as greenhouse gases. In the absence of these gases, the average surface temperature of the earth would be 15 degrees Celsius instead of the present average value of plus 15 degrees Celsius, and the earth would be frozen as lifeless planet. Accordingly, increase in greenhouse gas level would increase earth atmosphere. Globally, average surface temperatures have increased by about 0.6 degrees Celsius over the 20th century. The temperature is expected to increase by 2 degrees Celsius in 2050. The 10 warmest years ever recorded had occurred in the past 14 years. Warmest decade for the past 1000 years was between 1990 to 1999. This would cause thermal expansion of oceans and also melting of land-based Antarctic ice packs and glaciers. It is predicted that average sea level will rise between 30 to 213 centimeters by 2073. Over the past century, the increase in the average global sea level was much less, about 15 centimeters. The increase in the temperature would affect regional climate, shift climate zones and rainfall. This would also lead to increase in temperature of middle latitudes, causing death of forests, failure of major cereal crops and scorching drought. Rising sea levels will result in beach erosion, flooding and drinking water contamination. Acid rain. In the 1970s, the transboundary effects of industrial air pollution is known as acid rain. The rain is a widespread term used to describe all forms of acid precipitation such as rain and snow. Atmospheric pollutants, particularly oxides of sulfur and nitrogen, react with water in the atmosphere to form sulfuric and nitric acid. They are causing precipitation to become more acidic, hence the term acid rain. They can travel long distances with the wind before being deposited. Ozone depletion. Oxygen is a basic building block of our planet. The Earth's crust, the oceans and the atmosphere all contain important proportions of oxygen. Free oxygen present in the atmosphere occurs as the diatomic molecule. In some cases, due to various natural or artificial causes, oxygen may occur as triatomic molecular ozone. Ozone can be a problem gas. In the lower atmosphere, there may be too much of it. It is an indicator of pollution. In the upper atmosphere, there is not enough to block undesirable solar radiation. The ozone layer, located 15 to 50 kilometers above the Earth's surface, filters sun's harmful ultraviolet rays, which cause skin cancer, cataracts, lower crop yields, and also they damage the marine food chain, starting with the microscopic plankton in the world's oceans. Now next, coming to monsoon changes and monsoon tourism. In a true monsoon climate, seasonal wind shifts typically causing a drastic change in the general precipitation and temperature patterns. In India, 50% of the arable land is irrigated solely by monsoon rains. All monsoon climates share three basic physical mechanisms. These are differential heating between the land and oceans. Coriolis is an apparent force. It is resulted from the Earth's rotation. Just as the outside of a record moves faster than the inside, the speed of the surface of the Earth closer to the equator moves faster than it does away from the equator. Water vapor is responsible for transporting great amount of heat from the tropics to the poles due to the amount of heat necessary to change water from a liquid to a gas. One of the unique properties of the planet Earth is the natural occurrence of water in all three phases, that is solid, liquid and gas. Since the phase of water depends on both temperature and pressure, there exists a triple point where water can change from any phase into any other phase. Overall, half of the tropics, that is 1/4 of the surface area of the entire globe, can be defined as a monsoon climate. The large area involved and the grand scale of the weather within monsoon climates suggest that monsoons play a significant role in modulating global climate. Now next, coming to the Indian monsoon. In March and April, the Indian subcontinent begins to heat up. This dramatic heat up causes a large difference between land surface temperatures. This results in a reversal of winds from seaward, that is towards the sea, to landward towards the land. During the monsoon period, low pressure cell exists over Southwest Asia. This is intensified by the location of the Himalayas and Hindu Kush mountains, which trap warm air within the Indian Ocean basin. Cyclones. One of the most dangerous and unpredictable hazards are cyclones. They can cause enormous damage and loss of life to coastal areas. Cyclones don't reach far inland because the ocean is their source of energy. Cyclones occur in the Bay of Bengal in chiefly two seasons, April-May and October-November. All climates have changes, which occur on an annual cycle. This is often a dominant period of variability, as this is the time it takes for the Earth to revolve once around the Sun. This has a predictable period of 1 year. The regularity of the rotation of the Earth each day leads to a predictable cycle in any weather pattern. Monsoon tourism. As far as India is concerned, the word monsoon itself makes one happy. After long summer months, the monsoons are a welcome change. Nature trails are the best bet for nature lovers and general tourists alike. Up in the Indian hills, both in the north and south, the mist and the clouds seem to take the limelight in the monsoons. Fresh, sumptuous seafood and beautiful breezes make the beaches more romantic than here. Kerala is the only state in India which managed to keep alive Ayurveda. The climate and natural abundance of herbs and medicinal plants in the state, enhanced by the cool monsoon season between June to November, are best suited for Ayurveda's curative and restorative treatment. Environmental hazards and their prevention. Environmental hazards are defined as extreme events or substances in the earth and its ecological system which cause adverse effects to humans. Environmental hazards include geophysical and meteorological phenomena such as earthquakes, droughts and hurricanes. They are often called natural hazards. The pollution problems and such other problems are technological hazards. Natural hazards. The International Red Cross and Red Crescent have analyzed the past 33 years of the natural disasters at the global level. It is concluded that 90% of such disasters are weather related. The most common natural hazards are earthquake, hurricanes and volcanoes. Earthquake. An earthquake is a shaking, trembling or concussion and any violent blow of the earth. It is often accompanied by a rumbling noise. An earthquake is felt if the shaking is strong enough to cause ground accelerations exceeding approximately 1 centimeter cube per second square. Hurricanes. Hurricanes are tropical cyclones with winds that exceed 64 knots, that is 74 miles per hour. It blows counterclockwise about their centers in the northern hemisphere. Hurricanes are born over the warm waters of the tropical oceans, where humid air and converging winds fuel convective processes responsible for developing hurricanes. Now third, let us look into human-introduced hazards. Among the disasters caused by human activities, the following are important: wars, civilian radioactive waste, heavy metal pollution, persistent organic pollutants, that is POPs, deforestation, soil erosion, floods and droughts. Wars, weapon and waste. The combination of explosives and highly dangerous chemicals makes dismantling such weapons extremely expensive and environmentally risky. There are both technical problems in finding safe storage and disposal sites and financial problems covering the costs of security, decommissioning, decontamination and cleanup. Civilian radioactive waste. Civilian nuclear activities produce waste that are difficult to handle. Used fuel rods can be reprocessed, but large quantities of radioactive waste materials are waiting in temporary storage sites. One much debated method of nuclear waste disposal is burial. All countries with a nuclear waste problem are considering underground disposal as the only viable long-term option. However, it appears that every country that has tried to find a safe burial site has failed. If absorbed into the food chain, it can cause unpredictable genetic damage. Hence, the effects of nuclear contamination would be permanent and almost irreversible. Now, fourth, let us look into achieving environmentally sound management. A considerable number of international bodies are involved in work on chemical safety. 6 program areas are proposed for the same. Expanding and accelerating international assessment of chemical risk, harmonization of classification and labeling of chemicals, information exchange on toxic chemicals and chemical risk, establishment of risk reduction programs, strengthening of national capabilities and capacities for management of chemicals, and prevention of illegal international traffic in toxic and dangerous products. The 6 program areas are together dependent for their successful implementation on intensive international work and improved coordination. Effective control of the generation, storage, treatment, recycling and reuse, transport, recovery and disposal of hazardous waste is of paramount importance for proper health, environmental production and natural resource management and sustainable development. This will require the active cooperation and participation of all the stakeholders. Monitoring and making regional integrated life cycle assessments of the illegal traffic is urgently necessary. This must be linked with the United Nations Environment Programs, that is UNEP's efforts at the international level. Tropical deforestation. Cleaning of tropical forests has been going on a large-scale basis for many countries. This process is known as deforestation. It involves the cutting down, burning and damaging of forests. The loss of tropical rainforest is more profound than merely destruction of beautiful areas. With the current rate of deforestation, the world's rainforests will vanish within 100 years. It will cause unknown effects on global climate, thus eliminating the majority of plant and animal species on the planet. Most of the forest clearing is done for agricultural purposes, grazing cattle and planting crops. Commercial logging is another common form of deforestation, cutting trees for sale as tamper or pulp. There are other reasons for deforestation, such as to construct towns or dams which flood large areas. Yet, these latter cases constitute only a very small part of the total deforestation. Today, tropical rainforests are disappearing from the face of the globe. At this pace, that in the next 29 years, there will be almost no forest from Philippines to Burma, that is Myanmar. Previous approaches to rainforest conservation have failed as demonstrated by accelerated rate of deforestation. These methods consisted of closing off forests as untouchable parks and reserves, using guards and fences to secure park boundaries. As parks around the world were established, rainforests still fell at a faster rate than ever. In the places that parks were officially sanctioned, they were often not funded sufficiently and lacked the local support to be maintained. As a result, many of these parks today are only paper parks. They exist only on maps and official government conservation reports but do not exist in practice. Now next, coming to the basic steps for saving rainforests for tourism. Sustainable development of selected standing forest, rehabilitation and increased productivity of once forested lands, establishment of produced areas. The government offered no alternatives and the local people were expected to respect the park and regulations and subsist by other means. Laws alone will not stop deforestation. Ecotourism is rapidly becoming an excellent way for developing countries to bring in foreign revenue by preserving their rainforests. With ecotourism, income is earned from preserving the ecosystem. Forest clearing discouraged because it is detrimental to income. Similarly, ecotourism can reduce the need for poaching and hunting of forest animals for income. However, ecotourism must be carefully developed and well planned. For short-term development and lack of planning can doom rainforests. Ecotourism, if carried out in a sustainable way, will be beneficial to local people, the economy and the environment. It should be restricted to legally protected areas. Also, it can be promoted in natural areas that lack protection. The presence of tourists protects the area from over-exploitive activities when properly managed. Soil erosion and flooding. Soil erosion is the wearing away of the earth's surface by any natural process, the chief agent of erosion in running water. Minor agents are glaciers, rain, the wind, and waves breaking against the coast. Flooding is a great flow of moving water. The flowing stream, when overflowing the land, cause inundation. Dams and other flood management facilities do not eliminate floods. They are only part of the solution. To conclude, that we have discussed at length the various components relating to the game of globalization, like monsoon changes, monsoon tourism, human introduced hazards and measures to achieve environmentally sound management besides the steps for saving rainforests for tourism. Thank you.